Cutting everyone out of your life doesn't make you a strong boundary setter and leader. It actually just makes you an avoidant person. You do not want to be an avoidant person. You want to be able to face things head on. But this whole modern advice of just cut people out of your life, it is completely off. Now, sometimes you do have to cut someone out of your life in a very specific circumstance. Like somebody who's doing extremely unhinged behavior. Now, obviously, that can exist. So I'm not saying that you never cut anyone out of your life. There are times where it is appropriate, but we have gotten this obsession with, oh, they're not serving you. Oh, they're toxic. Cut them out of your life. Cut them out of your life. To the point where I've met so many people that just don't talk to either one of their parents. And sometimes it's warranted if the parent was like super, super problematic or whatever. Sometimes, very rarely though. I know specific cases of people who have mothers or fathers that should be cut out, right? And they did cut them out and it was the right move. I know some people where that's the case. But most people cut people out for ridiculous things and they don't actually try to just set a real boundary. Now, obviously, if somebody can't respect boundaries, that is a reason to cut them out eventually. But did you actually try to set a real boundary? Most of the time, what I see is that someone didn't even set a boundary. They have their own boundary that they have kind of set in their own mind and they never communicated. The person crosses the boundary that they didn't even know existed. Then they just cut them out of their life in an avoidant way and basically ghost them. It is completely ridiculous. It's unhinged behavior. It's not the way to be. It says right here in Matthew 18:15, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. So that is a really important thing. When you communicate a boundary effectively to somebody and they listen to you, there's respect that is formed and a bond that is formed. Some of my best friends, some of the best men I know, can tell me straight up when I'm screwing up in my life or when I'm making a bad decision. They can just tell me and I can tell them. There's a respect there. Now, they might not be telling me what I want to hear. And that doesn't mean I'm going to go, oh, you know what? I'm cutting them out. Like, why? No. They're telling me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear, what I need to hear. And that is important. And good people in your life will do this. They will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Or they'll do things that are good for you. And even if it feels uncomfortable, it's going to help you. And they're being a good person in your life. They're being a brother for life. This is so important. There's so much toxic modern advice that tells people, oh, just cut anyone out who crosses you. You don't need that negativity in your life. It's just the worst thing. It's ruining a generation because I'm a millennial. I'm an older millennial. And of the millennials who I know, there's so many of them who use this advice. Oh, well, they said something that I didn't like, so I just cut them out. I've had friends cut me out for the most ridiculous stuff possible. I'll tell you a story. I had a really, really close friend, a guy that I truly respected. We were really close, and we didn't agree on a lot of things, but we were still really close friends. We spent a lot of time together. We had a great respect for each other, really good relationship overall. And what happened was we are not aligned politically, and that's okay. To me, it's okay because I'm old school. I'm the type of person who thinks that you can have different political opinions, different religious beliefs than other people and still respect each other and be friends. I mean, that's just like normal to me. You can have different socioeconomic status, all that stuff, and you can respect each other and be friends. You don't have to be the same. You don't have to be homogenous with other people to be friends and to respect each other. You just don't. But what happened with this person was as this guy became more to one political affiliation, he became like so gung-ho about that that he started to not like anybody who didn't agree with his politics. And he started to only surround himself in an echo chamber of other people that agreed with his opinions to reinforce them. And I was the one friend who challenged those opinions. Now, I'm not super one way politically. I consider myself more of like a moderate. So I'm not even like a extreme really or anything. But it was enough. And for context, this was during the old what was going on in 2020, 2021. I won't say the word because I'll probably get flagged. But back then, people were this was happening. It was creating fissures in people's relationships, and it was weird. I remember one day in particular, we got into a very slight disagreement, and I said, "Hey, listen, we can still love each other as brothers and have disagreements in our perspectives. That doesn't mean we have to ever disrespect each other. Like, I'll always respect you, and we can have different opinions. We don't need to be rude to each other. Like, we can love each other, and we can have a relationship with some discourse. If we have ideas that are on the table, yeah, we can beat up the ideas without beating up each other." Said something to that effect. And it was because he was getting really emotional about something. And I was just trying to bring it back down to earth. And then what happened? That was probably the last time I ever heard from him. And this was a person that I was close with. He cut me out of his life. And I remember being like, wow, that was I think the first time that I can identify where I was on the receiving end of just being cut out of someone's life. And it was super weird. I'm like, how could you throw away all these years of friendship, years of respect, years of trust, just like that, over basically nothing? Like, I was just like, what? This is unhinged, right? Unhinged. And I remember it really hit me. And then I've had other friends who've done this with family members or whatever. And again, yes, there are times where somebody is just super dangerous. Like they just, I believe as a Christian that we should try to help people. And even if they're in a really rough spot, we should try to help them. And we should really try. But still, we set a boundary. And then we only have to set it one time. And if they can't respect it, we can create distance. And we can eventually remove somebody from our lives if it is entirely necessary. And yes, sometimes it is. There are some people out there that are just evil. And there's also some people out there who they're going to keep choosing the wrong thing, and you don't need to go down with them. And that's just the truth of it. But here's the thing. Don't just cop out to avoid conflict and become an avoidant person, like the example I just gave you before. It's not cool to do that to somebody. It just isn't. The person on the receiving end, I know because it happened to me, being on the receiving end, is just left confused. And it's like, I tried reaching out again after that and just got ghosted. And I was just like, what is going on here? You're just confused. There's no closure. It's just really just odd. I've heard about this happening in the dating world a lot too. Just people just completely avoiding breaking up with somebody, avoiding, telling somebody what happened or why they felt a certain way. And then you're just left confused. And it's sad. I talk to a lot of people that have been through that type of stuff in the dating world. And that's like a much lower intensity example, but it still happens. The word ghosting didn't exist when I was younger. Like, it wasn't really as much of a thing, but over time that's become just part of our modern vernacular. It's wild to me. So what we really need to do to be a sturdy boundary setter and leader is when we have a boundary that we need to make sure that we get respected by somebody, we communicate it one time. We communicate it very clearly to the person one time. This is my boundary. You can even say, this is my boundary. Or you can just say something very specific. So maybe this is, let's say you have a person who they start getting angry and start yelling at you sometimes. And they get angry and start yelling at you sometimes for something that you totally didn't do. You say, hey, listen, I don't want you yelling at me. Like, that's it. This is a boundary of mine. I'm not cool with you yelling at me. If you yell at me, I'm just going to be done with the conversation, and that's it. So whatever it is, like that's just an example. So let's say that that's what it is. Well, then what happens is if they cross the boundary and do it, you just create some strategic distance. You don't throw a tantrum. Do not throw a tantrum. I can't stress this enough. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to set a boundary telling someone, okay, you're not allowed to yell at me. And then when the person yells at them, they start yelling at the other person or like throwing a fit or being like, I can't believe you would do this. I told you. No, don't throw a tantrum. Just create a strategic distance. Hey, listen, I communicated with you what I needed. You're not respecting it. Like, I'm going to take some space. You just tell them. And then you create some distance. Now, the more they violate the boundary, the more distance you create. Eventually, if that person respects you enough and wants you in their life, they will start to respect the boundary. It's hard at first, but it totally works. Another example I know of, someone that I know, they had a boundary of one of their parents had an addiction problem, drank way too much. And so they set a boundary. Listen, I'm not going to be around you if you're drinking. That was the boundary. I am not going to be around you if you're drinking. I'm not okay with it. You have a problem. And I'm just like, I'm not going to be about it. I'm not going to cut you out of my life, but I'm not going to be around you if you're drinking. And so what would happen is, as the person would go around this other person who was drinking, soon as the alcohol came out, just get up and walk out of the place. See you later. I'm heading out now. And eventually, the person stopped drinking around the other person. I'm saying person because I don't want to like reveal information, personal details, that sort of thing. But the point is, that person doing that and setting that boundary led to change in the other person's behavior because they didn't want them to not be in their life. So they respected the boundary. And it was a reasonable boundary because you don't want to be around somebody who's being unhinged and has a drinking problem and that sort of thing. And then they start treating you badly every time and then you just put up with it. You're going to build up resentment. This is the whole point of boundaries. The whole point of boundaries is so that you can set them and not build up a bunch of resentment towards the other person for the behavior you don't like. That's the whole thing. We all have to coexist with each other. So this is a really, really important thing. You have to be able to resolve conflicts with people. And by the way, one of the things I didn't mention about Matthew 18:15 there is that it talks about privately. So I did mention clearly. I've talked about clearly, being clear about the boundary, but privately is another one. You don't want to embarrass people, right? You want to set the boundary with somebody personally. You don't want to do it in a way that embarrasses them and creates resentment on their side. So that's another thing. We're trying to do things that lead us to not hold resentment for other people because we want to be able to forgive each other. We want to be able to coexist and we want to be able to love each other. That's the whole point here, not just cut people out. And I've known people that have been the type of people that just completely just cut people out whenever they don't like something. Those people become the most anxious and just toxic people themselves because they think that you can handle things by just being an avoidant person and just cutting things out of your life. That is not healthy. It's not healthy. As a man, it's not manly. It's not a masculine thing to do. It's not high quality leadership. Like everyone knows as a leader, you have to deal with things. You have to be ready for it. You know, there's an old saying, you have to be able to fall on the sword. Like it sometimes it sucks, but you have to be able to take responsibility and you have to be able to be clear. And this is so, so crucial. So avoid the toxic advice to just cut everyone out of your life whenever they cross you. People are going to cross you. Learn how to forgive them and set a boundary. But, obviously, if they're repeat offenders, create the strategic distance. If you do eventually have to cut people out of your life, that's totally reasonable. Sometimes you have to. But be wise about this. Like, this isn't the answer for everything. Cutting people out of your life is such an extreme measure. And, I know there's going to be people who watch this video or listen to this, and they are going to be like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I had to cut out my parent because of X, Y, Z. And yes, you might have one person in your life that you did have to. But that shouldn't be the answer for most people in your life that you encounter. Most people in your life that you encounter, you should be able to forgive them. and communicate a boundary and still maintain a relationship. Occasionally there will be a person or two that has to be cut out and whatever. Like sometimes it is the right move, but it shouldn't be the main move. That's the key here. All right, I will see you in the next one.